BTC Macro, welcome to the show, man. It is once again our Sunday to talk about the week's events and a bit of charting to prep us for what might come. How you doing, man?
Hey man, I'm doing well. Thanks a lot for having me on again. It's
Always a
going to be
pleasure.
fun discussing all these topics.
Yeah.
It's quite, yeah, we're not running out of hot stuff to talk about.
Clearly not.
So, yeah, so let's go through them.
Right. So
What can I start?
today we're gonna do, what are you talking about? The North American ETF. I think that's one that we were speaking about earlier today. MicroStrategy, buying more Bitcoin. That's one I think is always positive regardless. Trusts around BTC. We've obviously got Grayscale. Let's also talk about the Coinbase IPO. I think that would be an interesting one to pick up as well, actually, because that in my regard, I would think is going to start bringing more people's awareness into Bitcoin, into crypto as well. And obviously, let's do a bit of wrap up around charting. Let's kind of see how BTC, what supports and resistance levels we should be aware of, and Ethereum as always, because I think that feels like it's ready to make some moves. Macro,
Yeah,
over to you, brother.
good. So in terms of the North American ETF, we
Mm.
already know that it was approved just a few days ago, and I think so far they've gotten something like 400 million in it, which is a substantial amount. This one is in Canada, and they got the green light, and it's already growing really fast, which is pretty big news. So some other key stuff is the
But 1 second, right? You know, with the ETFs, right? And for some of our viewers, why is it big news? I mean, what is the ETF? The idea is that those institutions can buy into a fund that fundamentally trades with Bitcoin and clears with Bitcoin.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. The big difference is from the products that exist now in traditional markets. You usually trade other stuff. It's essentially maybe it's a closed-ended fund,
Yep.
which means you put money in, but you can't get money out. So it's kind of tricky because these things get pretty significant premiums and
Mm.
discounts, whereas the other one is trading at the price of the market. Maybe it has some discrepancies at times, but it mostly trades at the spot price. So you can actually get physical delivery as well, I think,
Yeah.
which is kind of the same with, let's say, the gold ETF, the GLD. So and that's why it's kind of hard for these to get approval because there are lots of things about what is the actual
Yeah.
price, to get delivered, to have like everything secure. It's quite tricky. I'm not gonna lie. So there are reasons for why it doesn't exist, at least in the US. But I think they're running out of time, and as the market matures, they really need it because, as we'll discuss later on as well, we'll see more. We're seeing more and more of these funds
Mm.
coming into existence. That they're close-ended, they are like different ones. So it's just hard for big players to get exposure, and I think most of them are now demanding from the regulators for something bigger. Before
Yeah.
there was not so much demand, but now that the demand is really there and they're all struggling to get in, they have to do it.
Yeah. No, exactly. And I think anything that settles in Bitcoin is a positive thing for this space rather than just being settled for a nominal paper value more than anything else.
Yeah. So we already have backed, which is kind of something like this, but it's a derivative, like it's cash settled futures,
Yeah.
which are like quite different. I don't think it's like the Bitcoin settled futures, not cash. So there are all these other products. Now CME has the Ethereum futures as well,
Mm.
but for those things to not exist, it doesn't really make sense. So for example, like as you can see here, ARK Invest boosts its GBTC holdings to more than 7 million shares. So these are not like actual Bitcoins that they can actually trade and like have custody of them if they want to.
Mm.
They're stuck. But again, we're seeing so much growth in general. Like we also see Uniswap hit 100 billion trading volume and other stuff.
Insane, that one.
Yeah. Again, some key stuff, the MicroStrategy, they actually got 1 billion, no, yeah, $1 billion actually with um, at zero rate, because these people can actually at some point convert that money into shares, I think, or
Mm.
Bitcoin. It's quite I didn't really look at it exactly, but the key here is that they are actually getting essentially loans to buy Bitcoin for others or like for themselves, but those that give them the loan, they will get something out of it at some point, I think. So they found a way to tap into the bond market, the debt market. So for some of those funds, they can't really easily access Bitcoin because they have like specific mandates. But this way, they can actually get some exposure to Bitcoin, even though they couldn't have actually gotten this exposure through their funds because they are very specific funds that they can only buy bonds, which is very interesting. And they keep on buying, like pretty much the first buy is up 5x, I think. The second buy is up probably 2.5x. So they have like a pretty strong cushion right now. They're like very comfortable just adding more and more. And they're doing pretty well.
This is the
And
thing, right? Because like, you know, MicroStrategy, you know, they're buying more, and like you said, you know, with some of these organizations, it's not just about. Let's compare it to your retail trader, right? Some retail traders will come in and think, oh, you know, I've made a 2x, I've made a 3x, I'm out. This is it. I've turned $10,000 into $40,000, right? And usually for some that might be just enough, but you know, I think one of the things that people need to grasp actually is when you have big institutions like this coming in, they're not sticking around for a 5x or even a 2x, in all honesty.
Yeah, exactly. In my opinion, this clearly MicroStrategy getting in was a big catalyst.
Yeah.
Okay. Then more companies followed, but they were the first ones to take the lead in terms of the company adoption, because you have like all those different layers, like companies, funds, retail, etc.
Yeah.
And, you know, as you can see here, for example, corporate CFOs not planning to buy Bitcoin, Gartner survey shows. We don't know how like truthful that is, like maybe it is true or not, but at some point it says 5% plan to hold some pretty soon, which is quite a big number actually, like at least for the beginning, like, and once more do it, more will change the minds. And 84 of the respondents said do not plan on ever purchasing the coin as an asset, which could also change, but we have to keep in mind that 16% is quite far off zero in terms of companies, because if right now we just have like maybe 10 companies globally that have it, which most are Bitcoin related anyways, this is a quite big difference.
But 16% isn't a small number to be even scoffed at either, right? Because look, even if you just add another 4% to that, that's 1/5 of the companies that they've surveyed have said they plan to take on Bitcoin. That's, I mean, I would say, oh, you know, if that figure was somewhere around less than 5%, I'd be like, you know what, Macro, we've got a bit of an issue here, because it doesn't sound like a lot of larger corporates that are non-Bitcoin are really interested in it. But 16% isn't a small number either, from a Gartner survey as well. I mean, I'm quite familiar with Gartner surveys because I use them when it comes to benchmarking against off-the-shelf solutions that I would implement, you know, in the organizations that I work in. But I still think that's a pretty substantial figure, to be honest.
Yeah, and we have to keep in mind that many of those that were questioned might not even want to answer properly, because they might be worried that, you know, we are big, like we might be like a big company, so why would you say this? Like we had the Twitter CFO actually go on CNBC, I think, and they are thinking about it clearly because of Jack Dorsey. So if Twitter does it and then more companies do it, it's just going to become even bigger. And again, we're seeing like a new company file for a new ETF. They're waiting for approval. Maybe they get it. Probably won't right now, because like we said the previous week, they're talking more about an ETP for now. Right below, we see Osprey Bitcoin Trust begins trading on the OTC market. We've had so many of these Bitcoin trusts launched. The Grayscale. What is the lending company? I can't remember right now.
No, it beats me on this one.
Could you remember the one that everyone talks about, that they are lending lots of coins? They're getting interest.
Oh, so let's see a few that come from the top of my head. Nexo, Celsius,
Now the other one, the big one, BlockFi. Okay.
BlockFi,
Yeah.
yes, BlockFi.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So they launched a trust as well. They are all competing with Grayscale, which is quite big already. And now one of the, like, it's so many big news. It's incredible. So one of the biggest ones, before we go into the Coinbase IPO, we've got the BlackRock getting
Yes.
into Bitcoin. And people need to understand that BlackRock is so massive that their assets under management are 4 to 5 times larger than all cryptos combined. Okay. So just one asset manager in the world has 4 or 5 times more money than all of crypto combined.
That's
Now, and
that's a
they're
lot
getting
of assets to manage, to be honest.
exactly. And think about this: if they just sell 1% of their assets to buy Bitcoin, that's about $70 billion. And we're still talking about MicroStrategy, which is buying 1 billion worth of Bitcoin, which is still it's a fairly large number.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously Bitcoin is growing. It has hit 1 trillion. Now this is not the exact market cap because probably 15 to 20% of all Bitcoins have been lost.
Yeah.
So we should be mentally thinking that it's still smaller than it actually is, just something that people should be keeping in mind.
Yeah.
But again, it's still pretty massive. Like, and if BlackRock is getting in, as we were discussing last week, we've already sort of won. Like for them to ban Bitcoin now at this size, and with all these people getting in, it's very, very hard.
Yeah.
Like something really dramatically, like something really big has to happen. And especially now that we are also getting a company about to get in the traditional markets, like to get a proper IPO, which is currently valued at 100 billion.
Yeah.
This is a later number. The 77 billion is a valuation that was a few days ago. But on the pre-market, the pre-listing market, it's been trading at $100 billion, which is a fairly large number.
It's not
Maybe,
small.
yeah, maybe that has a bit of an effect on other stuff, maybe let's say on exchange tokens or in the market in general. So it's something that we need to keep in mind, because now people have a company that they can buy that's a direct, a big company, a well-known company. So many of the funds will start buying Coinbase, for example, and it could easily hit a crazy number fairly soon, because that's what they have exposure to. Maybe they don't want to buy Grayscale, maybe they can't, but they can actually buy a stock.
Yeah.
Because many of these companies have specific mandates, so they cannot buy, for example, like some of the other products, like Grayscale, for example, but they can buy stocks or they can buy bonds specifically. So the more we tap into these markets, the easier it is for money to flow into crypto.
Yeah. So let's talk about Coinbase IPO now, because this is heating up.
Yeah, it's very big in my opinion, and it's the last thing. I think it's the final piece in the puzzle, where when you have such a big company trading, we now are pretty powerful. Like you literally cannot wipe this thing out.
No,
No,
exactly.
you
I
really
mean,
can't.
like you said though, right? Banning I, it just ain't gonna happen. Like, as in, yeah, you can get all these little pockets of society in various countries, wanting to ban this or ban crypto here. We've tried to see India do it quite a few times now, and I think once, like you've said, once these institutions have another vehicle to allow money to flow into crypto, it becomes almost unstoppable at this point. Imagine going up to BlackRock saying no. It's not. I mean, look at
Yeah.
like you said, right? 5-6 times the market cap, right, of crypto under that one asset management fund. You can't say no to that. How
Yeah.
are you going to say no to it?
Yeah, it's possible. Like we have to think that a lot of the people, we need to remember that this is driven by speculation and
Yeah.
greed. Like we as human beings are not fully rational. There is rationality behind our motives and everything we do. Sometimes we're irrational, but right here we have an alignment of incentives where every rational actor wants to get into crypto to make money. Okay, so the more people do this, the more the harder it becomes for them to do anything against it. Even they themselves want to take a positive stance. And we've seen this with quite a few senators, congressmen, politicians in general, who are realizing how much money they can make and how powerful that tool is. That they are like, why do we want to fight everyone?
Yeah.
And why do this? And why not make money? Like, it's literally that simple. And now that we've gotten this big, it's quite hard for things to go back. And again, it's just something that it's very hard to do, because if we think like we're reading below, Google Ventures-backed crypto firm blockchain raises 120 million, or Bitwise launches a new DeFi fund offering exposure for accredited investors, and then another company put
Yeah.
like
The
5
Motley
million on
Fool.
Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So when you have all these things, like, it's very hard. Like, if they do something and all that starts dropping because of them, it's going to create a problem. Like, it's going to become kind of systemic, because all these people have been expecting to get something out of all their investments, and that's going to be a big hit. And again, I just don't feel that we're going to go into that direction.
But the other thing before we kind of move into the charting, right, is
Yeah.
if, when you scroll down earlier, Motley Fool, right, they came in with 5
Yeah.
million into crypto, right? I mean, it's not as big as some of the others that have come in, but when you then see headline articles like they expect to 10x their return, or they expected to 10x in 15 years, right? And given where the current price of Bitcoin is now, you know, this whole narrative around Bitcoin being worth $1 million at some point, it really isn't that far off either.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's that far, to be honest. It's kind of that thing that we were discussing the previous week, where it's like when somebody thinks about a certain price, they should not think of that price in isolation as if that happened, like as if that price happened now. They need to imagine all the pieces of the puzzle that had to come together for that price to go that high. To think of the people that bought, to think of the implications that has on the whole financial system, and so on. Like, people, I said this today on my Telegram channel, people need to stop thinking in 2 dimensions. They shouldn't be even thinking in 3 dimensions. They should be thinking in 4 dimensions. They need to expand their horizons and start thinking in like in more complex ways, rather than simple lines of thought, like where they discard certain things because they don't fit their narrative,
Yeah.
or the counter their current worldview. They need to start thinking beyond of what they've been taught. Initially it will be hard, but once you start realizing the world is not linear, and the world is quite complex, and lots of different things can happen, I think that's how you're going to become better at crypto as well.
Yeah.
Just kind of free yourself of like, oh, this is expensive, this is not expensive. Like, people don't think that way. Like, people don't even know what's expensive. Like, again, like I told you earlier in our conversation, like somebody, like a friend of mine told me today that he wants to get into Ethereum because some of his friends go into Ethereum and it was up $500 this month, so he's going to do well. Like, nobody cares about the fund. Like, they don't even know the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Okay, they just want to make some fucking money. I
That's
apologize.
it. Yeah.
Maybe,
It's all right.
but yeah, that's the goal essentially. So clearly, in the long run, we're going to have a more rational market, and at some point, the price is going to
Yeah.
stabilize in a certain range, but that would be much higher than here. Clearly, right now, we're still in a price discovery mode. The Bitcoin and crypto will grow. There are so many things that will change in the future.
Yeah.
So it just remains to be seen. And again, I don't really know if there's any big stuff here. Maybe people can check this stuff on their own. So we can
Yeah,
just
no.
go to the
Well, I
price
mean, yeah,
action.
talking about price discovery, let's what is Bitcoin doing for us today, and is my
Yeah.
head in the way of your graph?
Yeah.
Have a
So
look.
Bitcoin has gone up significantly. It went actually quite significantly up since the CME closed on
Mm,
Friday. So the CME close was right here at $55,600.
okay.
And it actually, the price went significantly higher. Well, not too much, but at least for now, it looks like there's going to be a gap up. The price went up 5%. It actually dipped significantly, but it quickly went back up. So,
but tell me one thing, right? Because obviously now there's a gap from when it closed on Friday, but come Monday, are we then potentially expecting a dip in order to fill that gap?
Yeah. So if you remember what we're discussing last week, I don't know how many people watched the previous video, but we were discussing that I told people there is a chance of getting down here, and the price bottom exactly at the level, or one of the levels I was watching. One was this one was this one, and it just happened that we went to this area, bottomed right here, and then quickly back up. So clearly there was a shakeout, but at the end of the day, we were saying that, we're going to go higher. Price actually rallied quite significantly. Clearly the news from MicroStrategy has played a role and other stuff, but again, 27% in a week is a fairly large number. Okay, it's not a small number, but so because of that rally and because we're going to have a gap, maybe we see a drop like this one. I don't know. Maybe we get down here. Maybe we just get somewhere in this area to fill the gap. I'm not very sure right now because my bias long term is bullish, and all I can say is that for now these are the areas I would be watching. If the price starts going down, I think 52, 53 will be a good support area. Then it will be 50, then potentially 48, and then if we start going down, I think that this is probably the price floor I see. If you look at this, for example, we had the 31% correction, and if from here we drop another, let's say 32%, we'll come back all the way to where the Tesla pump occurred. So I think it's a pretty fair point because we are getting significantly overbought. We have moved up a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a fairly large correction from here. Maybe we just go here and then higher because of how many people are getting in. In general, the global financial conditions are pretty bullish still. I don't think anything has significantly changed. More money is coming because of the stimulus
that's
checks.
what I was going to say. Like more money is flowing in, and it's not going to stop now just because these guys have bought. I don't think it's going to end here, and that's what it's going to take. It's going to take another major institution, even another major retail focused institution. Ones that sell products to retail customers day in day out. Whether you talk about Apple or whether you talk about Samsung, and I'm talking about those types of institutions, right? Because all it takes is just another headline item like that, and next thing you know, we're on another leg up.
Yeah. And that's potentially what's going to happen. Again, like even if there is a dip, I'm mainly talking about people that are trading. Okay. I wouldn't suggest selling your crypto here. Maybe you want to sell some and potentially wait for a dip, but I don't think you should be selling more than 10 or 20%. I think that will be probably the maximum with the goal to buy in maybe in this area, because we had a big breakout, wasn't retested. Maybe it does come down here, but at least for now, I'll just say take it step by step. Let's assume we're going to have a correction right here and then higher. Because if I just look at, let's say, the daily chart, I'm just going to put on another exchange. The market still looks very bullish. I don't know what would have to happen for this to turn really, really bad. Like it's a pretty strong market. There are no signs of exhaustion. It just keeps on pushing and pushing higher. So even like getting to, like I was saying, 52, that would be very good. Even if it gets down to this area where we had like those weeks in this area right here with 48. And I think that will be as far as it will go. Maybe we see a spike down like this candle and then quickly back up, or maybe this one. So we can see these candles right here. 50%
but they're getting bought
drop.
up really quickly though. That's the thing. They're not even hanging around. They're literally there and that's it. They're snapped up straight away.
Yeah, look, the buy the dip thing is the best strategy someone can have. You go with a trend. Essentially, when we say buy low, sell high, we need to do this within a trend, because if you try and buy low and sell high, when something is in a bear market, let's say, the price could go lower and lower and lower. It might take you 5 years to sell higher. Okay, so people need to remember this fact. So for now, at least relative to where it is now, 50,000 is cheap. It's kind of weird to say this, but it is actually cheap.
We would have thought that, right? People are still sitting here hoping for a 20,000 Bitcoin again, and that just seems like such a long time away, such a long time ago as well. So,
go on,
go on. You were saying?
Yeah, the last thing I would say is we need to remember that when MicroStrategy is buying, they're not going to sell any of that soon.
No.
So the people that bought and that sold, excuse me, that money is probably going to be sitting around. Maybe it gets into altcoins, maybe it gets into something else, maybe it sits on the sidelines, but it doesn't fully vanish. It doesn't mean that those people exit fully. So those people that exited probably are going to chase higher, or maybe they're going to buy the dip. So again, it's not something that it's something that we need to remember, that these people do not plan to sell anytime soon.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah, and they're not the weak hands of potentially a retail trader or a fund that is looking to quickly get in and out. So do you want to talk about Ethereum, you said?
Let's talk about Ethereum, right? Because that has been what feels like a very slow road, but a good one nonetheless. So, I mean, how's Ethereum faring?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. It's not looking great, in my opinion.
Shift your chart to the right, macro, for a bit. I think my head's in the way again. There we go.
Here?
Yeah. There you go. Keep going.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do this.
Perfect. There you go.
So it's kind of tricky, because the minute we go close to the CME launch of the ETH futures, what happened was we had a rotation from all the DeFi stuff that was up significantly into other layer ones and layer twos, and stuff like exchange tokens. Potentially that was that's multifaceted. It's not something that it's very simple, because again, the BNB token has many use cases, at least from what Binance is doing. I don't want to say that it's the best token or has the most use cases, but they have done stuff to make it useful or make it seem useful. And it's the only way that, for example, some people could assume they're getting exposure to Binance. So maybe because of the talks of the Binance IPO, that was a factor. Another factor was the Binance chain, because of all the fees people are paying on Ethereum, which in my opinion has taken a very big hit. And it's very hard for me to see the whole thing roll, because Ethereum had support in this area, it had support in this area, and now it's coming to the final level of support. But it's starting to look a bit like this, where it had a run, then it started slowing down a bit, and then it started rolling over. Like, instead of having some strength, it keeps looking weaker and weaker and weaker. And if it doesn't bounce at this area right here, which in my opinion is the most important one, that's where the pump originated. So there is decent support here, because this was strong resistance, and then that was also support. If it doesn't bounce here relatively soon, I think it's going to be in big trouble. And I just want to briefly touch on stuff. Again, I'm looking at this relative to Bitcoin, because if we think Bitcoin is going to dip in USD terms, at least short term, probably Ethereum does so as well.
Yeah.
And if Bitcoin goes up, Ethereum is going to follow. But it's about relative performance. So if I look, for example, at Polkadot, which is one of my favorites right now, not because of fundamentals. Maybe you can add the fundamental story as well, but it just looks a lot better. Like, I'm seeing something strong. Ethereum looks weak, Polkadot looks strong. Like, maybe it comes down to this area and goes up. It broke out from a very strong resistance area, and we know that the more this times has been touched, the stronger it becomes. Maybe someone can call this a cup and handle pattern. That was fully reclaimed. First breakout, then retest down. It was a wipeout, and then up again. retested this properly and up. So it has a very strong uptrend against Bitcoin, whereas Ethereum a very weak one. And I would also say that it's similar story with Cardano right now, which also looks fairly strong. The big picture is also bullish. And again, I know that a lot of people have certain feelings about certain protocols and stuff, but right now, in my opinion, they have all been outperforming Ethereum, and I just feel like it's going to keep on happening. If Ethereum doesn't bottom soon, people could start looking at buying Ethereum like soon because it's really close to support to the final level, which is probably 3% away in Bitcoin terms. But if it just doesn't look good, I would suggest, prefer those coins. And if Ethereum doesn't do well, maybe the coins on Ethereum DeFi don't do well either, because we know that there have been a lot of projects building on Polkadot. There have been a lot of projects building on Binance Chain.
Yeah.
And in general, that could be a big shift because, for example, Bitcoin had a very special place in 2017. But all the people that have all those projects, which are not even decentralized, okay, let's not pretend that these are decentralized. They can easily move into more centralized projects or more untested projects that have not been as battle tested as Ethereum, like Solana, Polkadot, etc., because they can just get the cheap fees.
Yeah.
And that would be a big blow to Ethereum. So it's something that we must not forget when it comes to at least trading in the short term.
No, exactly. I mean, to be honest, Polkadot and Cardano, strength to strength.
Yeah.
And I hold tokens in both because I do believe they have a strong fundamental use case, but also, the narrative at the moment is that Ethereum, it is getting close to being unusable, especially, and like you said, let's not kid ourselves, right? We're all in this space to make money. As much as anybody says, I love it for the tech, I love it because it's decentralized and it's financial freedom and all of that sort of narrative that goes around it. The truth is that we're here to make money on these charts. We're not looking at them just because they look great because they're going up. Well, if they go up, it means that our bottom line goes up as well at the same time. And a lot of the people that I'm speaking to currently at the moment, one of their biggest issues at the moment is fees. They're saying, Uniswap for me is unusable unless you're someone who has, a significant amount of, trading reserves. Then fine, you can use the Uniswap play because you could most probably swallow up that fee altogether. But for your everyday retail trader who might just want to chuck a couple of $100 at it, being slammed with like a $40 or $50 fee as part of that, it just doesn't. The upside, psychologically just doesn't compute with some people because it's like it needs to go up a fair bit for to be able to make my money back on the fees. Then I'm still going to have another fee to pay because of me taking it out as well at the same time. And I think all of these things are negatively going against Ethereum, unfortunately. And you're right, because this will also impact DeFi.
Yeah, and the thing is, most of these things can easily transition to something else if they want to. So maybe for some it's harder, maybe for some it's easier. Okay, so I'm not saying that everything is going to transition tomorrow, and potentially, because some of them transition, maybe things become better for Ethereum in the short term. So there is some balance there. Maybe people get so many problems in those other projects that eventually people have to come back into Ethereum. So it's something that we need to monitor as things go on. I cannot give you a certain answer because there's all that back and forth. Like when I hear people tell me about like whatever is being built on Ethereum, like I'm happy that people are building stuff, but most of it is still unproven. And when you have like literally someone can copy something from what is built on Ethereum, start a brand new token and build the exact same thing on Polkadot or or Binance Chain or wherever he wants, much cheaper fees. And maybe people do transition there, and before people know it, the big migration is there because of all the influx of new people that are coming in, and maybe it's easier to onboard people there. Again, too many hurdles is too early to tell, but I would just say, just separate in your head. Like I'm not against people that are here for the technology. Like I like all the benefits that I get from this technology. There are benefits. Okay, so I don't think it's just a narrative.
Yeah.
Like being able to move my money around and do whatever I want with them is quite powerful. But at the same time, if I want to grow it, at least part of it, I need to know how to speculate with it properly. And again, like I always say, that's how I can help people. They can follow me on
Yeah.
Twitter. They can talk with me on Telegram. Maybe they want to have coaching sessions with me. So it's just something that you learn as you go. And there's nothing wrong with selling something because maybe short term it doesn't look good, because that's where because you want to make money. Stop thinking as if you have a moral obligation towards a project. That project doesn't know you anything,
Yeah.
and you don't owe them anything. You just, it's free market trading, like at its finest.
No, exactly. And I think on that note, Macro, we're going to draw a close to this one today because I think there's a lot for people to take away, because I think one thing that I like about our Sundays is that we're not just discussing news, and we're not just discussing the charts for BTC and Ethereum. It is really more to, I would say, help our viewers understand the bigger narrative, be able to take in additional data points when it comes to looking at this space, right? Because it's quite a lot that we discussed in terms of our personal thoughts and feelings around this space, and I think this is what's really key. I think in these Sunday sessions that we have is that you get a bit of market overview, yes, you get a bit of analysis, but what I really want viewers to take away from our conversation is really the thought process behind it. Why not? Things that you need to consider, even if you are thinking about trading or taking money off the table as well at the same time, right?
Yeah, fully agree. And it's like you said, it's a thought process. I'm not teaching people how to catch a fish. I'm teaching them how to fish, like how to catch the fish. It's not like, I think that a lot of people expect easy stuff,
Mm.
easy knowledge, and all those things. But again, in my opinion, I like conversations because you know your stuff, and I think I know my stuff, and I have a lot to offer because I've thought about crypto for so long and so deeply, and I think that I have a unique perspective into these things. And other people have in other areas in life. I just happen to have that in crypto because that's my full-time job for many years now. And if people can learn from this, I'll be happy. Like, I'm trying to help as many people as possible, and I will be wrong many times. Like, I've been humbled by the market and all these things many times. I've lost money, I've made money, and I just learned how to respect everything. And like, I learn from others, they should be open and understand other people's position. If they don't like it, just be respectful and move on.
Right, exactly. Right. Well, Macro, same time next Sunday, right?
Yep.
Sounds good. See you then, man.
See you then, man.
Cheers.
Ciao.